So welcome to everyone joining virtually from all over the world. Thank you for tuning in to discuss the state of rail freight in the first quarter of 2022 as we move into the second. While public transport and retail get sufficient attention, rail freight transportation systems are not being discussed enough. Rail freight continues to operate despite global events such as COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war, as well as amidst fluctuating demand in supply chain and logistics. So today we'll discuss what operational challenges the industry faces, what can be done about it, and what still keeps it going. With our guest speakers today, we will dive deep into the current climate as well as look at ways to boost resilience in these trying times. So I will now share my screen. Cool. So again, this is the beginning of the webinar. Hello and welcome to those who are just filing in right now. As an icebreaker with everyone, while we wait for everyone to join, you could just keep continuing chatting in the chat. And we have two questions. Can you please answer if you've encountered challenges in rail freight recently? And tell us what you are expecting to learn from this webinar in 1 to 2 words. Cool. Let's get to it. Okay, so generally what you can expect from today's session, we will give you a rundown on the current rail freight container market in general, a detailed breakdown of rail freight markets across China, Pakistan, and Russia, operational challenges for rail freight and strategies for the way forward, and solutions to implement to improve the situation. Also happening today, we will be doing some breakout rooms for networking, and we will have knowledge sharing with 100 plus container logistics companies. We'll also learn how they solve challenges with equipment sourcing, which is like exactly why you should stay until the end of the session, because this is going to be a great opportunity to grow your network and speak to like-minded individuals, and we'll discuss solutions as well as get a platform demonstration on how container exchange can help. Our first speaker, I just want to quickly introduce the speakers that will be joining us today. Our first speaker is Aasim Siddiqui. He is the Managing Director of Marine Group of Companies, and he will be giving us a rundown of the rail freight situation in Pakistan. I will formally introduce these speakers before they speak each time again with a proper rundown, but I'm just going to go through it very quickly. Our second speaker is Mr. Frank Shao, who you saw already, who I hope has joined us again. I can't see the speakers or the browser, but I hope he's back. Mr. Frank Shao will be giving us a rundown on the rail freight situation in China. He is the CEO of Tiadada, which is a leading international solution company who focuses on the rail logistics for LCL and FCL for eastbound and westbound between China, Russia, and Europe. So we're very excited to have him with us today. Again, I will elaborate on his introduction a bit later before he speaks. The third speaker for our third session is Mr. Richard Squire. He will be giving us a breakdown on the rail freight situation in Russia, and he is the head of International Container Department at ADL Group. Cool, moving on. Our last external speaker will be Mr. Armand Toubol. He is a retired honorary general member at SNCF, and he teaches rail transport at La Sorbonne University in France. He will be giving us an overview of the current state of the rail freight market in general. So yeah, very looking forward to getting that. And then last but not least, our own Thomas Smith, who is a senior network development manager at Container Exchange, will be giving us, he will show us how rail freight operators can increase flexibility using Exchange, as well as give us a platform demonstration. So we look forward to ending off with some solutions. Before we do start and get into the thick of it, we just have a quick poll for our viewers. So you can go into the poll at the bottom right, you'll click poll and you'll see that there are three questions being asked of you. Answer them whenever you like. Yeah, it's just for information gathering purposes.
Great, thank you very much.
Cool. Lyra, I'm not sure if you want to add anything more about the poll or if that's good.
Could you please answer three questions in the polls? You can see this button down below on the right side of the webinar room.
Great, and you can answer in your own time whenever you have a moment. Yeah.
Exactly. Great.
Cool. I will now start officially with our first speaker, which is Mr. Aasim Siddiqui. I just want to give a proper rundown of who he is and why we're so excited for him to be here. So he has developed and financed transport and logistics projects in Pakistan in the last 25 years. He served for 3 years as the chairman of the National Institute of Operations. Sorry, it's cut off. And he's on the board of directors of 14 other companies of the same marine group. He's currently serving as the group managing director of Marine Group of Companies, and he will give us a rundown on the rail freight in Pakistan. Aasim, so nice to have you. Welcome.
Hi, Candice. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm really sorry about the webcam, but I tried everything through another laptop as well, but I couldn't get the webcam to work.
Totally fine. Your voice is enough. We just
Okay.
grateful you're here today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I think if you can put down my first slide then.
Yes, you just tell me exactly when I should go to the next slide, but take it away. Thank you.
Wait. Yeah, okay. So basically, here in Pakistan, we have a lot of regional developments related to inland transportation and regional connectivity. About 6 or 7 years ago, the Chinese have decided to connect the southern part of Pakistan from a port called Gwadar all the way to China. But that I assume has become quite challenging because it goes through the mountains, so there's a lot of height. But however, having worked on those projects, what we now see is that, with hopefully some peace coming in Afghanistan, we have Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan and the Central Asian republics who have visited Pakistan and have shown a lot of interest in moving their cargo through Pakistani ports, because we've already developed a highway network now to Central Asia. And Pakistan has run a few container loads also for these regional countries which are north of Afghanistan. Also, and basically, the what you see on the screen in the north are the linkages between China and Europe, the two rail corridors. And so Pakistan has a very strategic importance where we hope that we can link, in the center of these two corridors, so that the cargo that is there for Central Asia and can be connected through the Pakistani ports, and containers from Pakistan can also be connected through Uzbekistan. Can you put the next slide now?
Yes. There you go.
Thank you. So in the last few years, what we saw was there was a rail connectivity between Turkey and Pakistan. So we saw that also being revived by the three governments. And we've seen some movement of cargo between Turkey, Iran, and Pakistan. Well, Iran is under sanctions, so mostly between Turkey and Pakistan. So good, interesting developments that we see in terms of the container requirements, there are a few changes in our custom systems as well. We have regular flow of containers into Afghanistan, which ranges anywhere between 50 to 70,000 containers annually. So if we take roughly, say, 5,000 containers which go monthly into Afghanistan, the current custom regime was that there was a seal put in at the southern port in Pakistan, in Karachi, and then in the north areas where the border crossing was, they checked that seal. But due to the disruption in trade activity in Afghanistan, and convinced the Pakistani government to review the custom regime. And what they have done is that they have allowed cross-stuffing of containers. So what we will see is, they have allowed it, but it's still under implementation. So there is if a truck takes, let's say, about 2 weeks to take a container from Karachi, which is in south of Pakistan, into Afghanistan and back to Karachi. So we would be requiring, I think about 2 to 3,000 containers, which will just be doing the rounds from Pakistan into Afghanistan, and then hopefully bringing export cargo as well, which is saman in Afghanistan. And then the same thing would happen for the new cargo, which would be going into Kyrgyzstan or Uzbekistan. We've had a transit agreement signed with Uzbekistan, and I believe with Turkmenistan and Kyrgyzstan also is in the pipeline. So, one can sort of gauge, and then similarly, for other Central Asian republics which are close. I know that Azerbaijan is also quite keen to work on import transit and export transit routes through Pakistan via the rail. But what we will also see is domestic cargo then, once this trade route is opened, um, but where it's flowing, the cargo is flowing cross border through either trucks or train, then a lot of domestic cargo will also start moving. And so we expect a significant rise of requirement for containers, once for, like I explained, for the import cargo, so cross-stuffed cargo items, and then also for regional trade, which is going to be facilitated due to opening of these regional routes. If you can put the next slide, please. तुमने वो टर्की वर्की का कहाँ दिया हुआ था? ये है। Yes, this is the ये कहाँ पर है? So this is the route with Istanbul, and if you can see that the countries which are in the north of this train route are very keen to join basically either multimodal form of movement. So basically the train goes, loads cargo from Pakistani ports, because these are the countries in the north are mostly landlocked or don't have access to warm water ports. So from Tehran or Tabriz, or even, I've got queries asking, even from Istanbul, they have rail connectivity. A lot of these countries, because their cargo is moving actually through Turkey, a lot of it. So they have good connectivity from Turkey. But once we sort of energize this trade route from Pakistan, then the cargo coming in from Far East can save, at least 2 weeks of sailing time if cargo is offloaded in Pakistani ports and then moved through inland routes. So these things are developing. If you can put the next slide. please.
Yes, I will put the next slide on. I just wanted to quickly interject here and say we have about 5-6 minutes to wrap up before the next speaker, if that's possible. So
Yeah, sure.
cool.
So this is just some estimated, trade volumes from Turkey to, China and Central Asia, I mean, Europe and the rest of the world as well. And similarly for Iran and then for Pakistan. This, when we've seen in the recent years that whenever the trade connectivity is improved and cross-border trade is facilitated, then these numbers are going to significantly rise because a lot of the regional cargo will also start flowing. At the moment, it's very inefficient, the trade routes. So this should sort of, give an indication of how many, containers will be required just for this region from, let's say, Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, Central Asian republics, and Turkey. This, there will be in the next, I would say, a year or 2 years, a significant exploration of both trade potential and the transit trade potential amongst these countries. And we do have a lack of containers over here, the what we call the shipper-owned containers, basically. So shipping lines do have their containers because Pakistan is doing approximately 3.5 million TEUs annually. But of course, they are not interested in the regional trade. They're mostly interested to load their containers onto their own ships. So the demand will be created, and whichever the interested companies are can work through your organization, which identifies containers which may be available in the region. So if you can put the next slide, I can just start wrapping up.
Yes. Yeah.
So, like I said, we've had good meetings with Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan for both transit trade and for bilateral trade. And we hope that the flow of cargo, both for transit and for domestic or regional trade, is going to grow a lot. Can you put the next slide now?
Yeah. Here it is.
Yeah, so just to wrap up, this is the road network in Pakistan that I said was being developed through a program called the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC, which provides access to the western part of China to the ports in the south of Pakistan. But like I said, the cargo has not started flowing in 6 or 7 years that they've started building. So what the government of Pakistan and the regional countries are working on is regional cargo and how we can increase regional trade and also the transit trade through Pakistan. That's all.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Let me actually go back. Thank you so much, Aasim. That was really informational. If anyone has any questions for Aasim, please can you direct them into our chat, and there'll be a session at the end where they'll be able to ask any questions for him. Again, just very grateful and very enthused that Marine Group was able to have a representative and we could align with them, as they are one of the largest and most diversified cargo handling operators providing multiple supply chain and logistics services in Pakistan since 1964. So thank you again, Mr. Aasim Siddiqui. Cool. Moving on to session number 2. We will now look at the rail freight situation in China, where Mr. Frank Shao will now lead this discussion. Just again, Frank Shao is the CEO of Tiadada, which is a leading international solution company that focuses on rail logistics between China, Russia, and Europe. He is also the former president of Ningbo West Rail Supply Chain Management. And yeah, we are very, very enthused about him joining us today. So you can take it away, Frank.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, my old friends and new friends. Very nice to meet you here. And thank you for Content Exchange to offer me the opportunities for the presentation. Okay, so yeah, please go to the first slide. Yeah, we all know that we had a very long slack seasons from the first day of the new year. So so market is not going down, going up, and yeah, please go to the third page. Thank you. Yeah, the situation is very not optimized. We can see the first thing is a war between Russia and Ukraine, make many impacts on every aspects. We can see the euro exchange rates going down and many energy crisis increased. So from every aspect, it's no good news. The second bad news is Shanghai, East China was locked down for 1 month. So the logistics and the manufacturers was totally stopped in Shanghai region, and the logistics was greatly impacted to Zhejiang and Jiangsu province. So yeah, you can see from the map of China, many regions are in red. So the situation is not so good. From the latest figures, according to Sonar, a statistics association, the container volumes out of China dropped from April 6th to 15th April this month, have declined by more than 31%. So we are in a big trouble and the recession now. So as you know, we are in Chinese Tigers Year. So every Tigers Year, many changes happened. So this year similar. Okay, next page. So we can see from the rail out of China in first quarter, totally almost 2,000 trains and 174,000 TEUs was dispatched to Europe from China, and increased 15 and 18 year-on-year respectively. So as loaded containers, full of the whole chains, almost 100%. So the business in the first quarter is good, but not so good in from this year. We can see the lockdown, the situation will be lasting to maybe in the middle of May, and so totally the cover of the factories resumed would lasting for 2 months. So we had a very bad first half years, right? And for the real price, you can see from the photos, Xi'an as example, from January terminal to terminal is 8,200 to April. It's decreased to 6,600, and in the latest price of May, for example, Xi'an to Milosevic, it's already decreased to $5,000, and Xi'an to Hamburg, Duisburg, it's about 6,000 per container. So I can also see some gateways like Wuhan and some smaller gateways. So we can even get a better price. So the price very changeable. And for the container trend, container price trend. For example, from Shanghai to Milosevic, it's over 3,000. But now from May, it's about 206,000, 2,600 per containers from Ningbo, Shanghai to Milosevic. So the price decreased largely for the container one-way leasing. And the next page. And we got a good news that the transit time would be increased, optimized more and more, because not too many volumes and less congestion at the Milosevic. So Budapest, from Xi'an to Budapest, is only cost 15 days, and remains keeps the same levels in April. And the next page, you can see from Xi'an to Milosevic, it's only cost, next page, please. It's only cost 12 days. And in the latest Sun trains, we can see even to 9 days from Xi'an to Milosevic, 9 days to and 10 days. And no congestion now, so it's quick to Hamburg and Budapest, and Duisburg, sorry. Duisburg, it's only 15 days to 16 days at the most. So these are two good news. Yeah, this is a good news. The transit times better. So rail freights is better than the rail, than the ocean, and the price, yeah, is better. So next page.
Just to interject, Frank, in 2 more minutes we'll have to wrap up soon.
Yeah, so we can see the trend of the recent trend. So smaller volume, smaller orders, more and more smaller orders, and LCO requests and e-commerce become more and more popular. And since we are in a quick change period, so many people would like to check online and to check the door to terminals price and the space. So they would more like to work with the internet platform. Okay, next 2 pages. Yeah, so Tiedada provides provides the supporting on the LCO. Next page, thank you. Yeah. So firstly, we are offering the rail LCO as our most advantage product. We operated almost 90,000 cubic meters in last year. So we have many direct products to Europe, and we also would like to welcome to work with some partners to have more destinations, and we would like to offer the standard service, very quality service for the buyers consoles. We can collect cargoes for you from many places of China and build up console box for you. So that's the main part. And the second, we have the road rail service. We cooperated with the Hogos government to build up. So first leg, we collect the cargoes by truck, and then we connected on rail at Kazakhstan site. So this service can accept some time sensitive cargoes and the DG and battery cargoes. The third is e-commerce. We can see the e-commerce has many requirements for the labeling, for the custom clearance, because many HS code inside. So it's a different product, but Tiedada can do the e-commerce cargoes well also, and also for the eastbound LCO. So we can build up the LCO for eastbound. And next page. And we are offering the easy, quick rail rail and reward service. So next page is I will show you how to work with us. Yeah, next page. You can check always check our price at our website, and yeah, I will show you next. I will do the quick.
Thank you.
Oh, no. Yeah, this part I would like to show you, but the last two slides, it's old PPT. So you can experience our online checking in our website tidada.com. You can get the very on time pricing and the service, and for every bookings we will reward the we will give the reward for the points to change the coupons to decrease the real price. So you will be surprised in our website. So we are finding the clients. We are looking for the local heroes in dedicated countries of European unions, and we will deeply work with them to support them to deliver this FCO, ALCO from China to Europe, and for the eastbound also. I think this is the business level, and also the partners. We will find the rail carriers, trucking companies, warehouse operators, depots, and container platforms like Container xChange, very good friends, and custom brokerage, logistics associations, and clubs. We would like to work with you as partners to offering more information, solutions, and very good support to work together. And for the investor level, we are now be the one very typical internet service companies, online platforms in China now. So we are also finding some investors who interesting to work with us to build up for the digital logistics in future. Okay, so next page. So I got to finish my presentation, but please be noticed. Please be aware that we Tidada have is a very loyalty and neutral partners of you in China, and we dedicate on the rail service. Okay, thank you. Thank you for.
Thank you so much, Frank. I'm sorry to rush you in the end there, but if anyone has any questions for Frank, please put them in the chat. I know there have been a few already posted, and we will go through them at the end. So thank you again for speaking today.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving swiftly on to session 3, we have Richard Squire, who again is the head of International Container Department at ADL Group. And he was the former deputy head of Purchase and Supply Chain Department in 2A. Welcome, Richard. Richard will now.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me?
Richard will now speak about the rail freight situation in Russia. And Richard, please let me know when.
I firstly wanted to start with the words of gratitude to xChange for organizing such a good event, and because doing logistics is very hard, and all information and knowledge are really precious. So that is a very good place to be here and share the knowledges with other participants of the market. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
I wanted to separate my speech to 2 different parts. In the first, I would like to talk more about the state of the Russian market nowadays. What do we see today? What's expected, and what was a really big surprise for us this year. And in the second part of my speech, I would like group are doing to try to use these opportunities and to avoid these threats. Okay, can you please go to the next page?
Yes.
First of all, we see the increasing demand for SOC and COC containers in Russia right now. April and May is traditionally the period of time of increasing demand for containers. And we already see the shift on the market when the users, they're ready to pay for the bigger fees for containers, which is a very good thing for container owners, for container leasing companies, of course. Secondly, a very important factor which could play the major role in the price changes in the Russia is that in February and March, three key players of the Russian market have left their presence in Russia. I'm talking about xChange, Myers, and MSC. Because of the sanctions, they stopped their presence in Russia, which is a very big thing. This decision from these companies was very unexpected because of the level of integration of these companies to the Russian economics. Okay, great. So I was talking about the state of the Russian market today, and the very big thing for the Russian container market is that in February and March, the three key players on the market have stopped since here. I'm talking about CMA-CGM, Maersk, and MSC. Because of the sanctions, they stopped their business here, which is a very big thing for all Russian players. Also, I would like to mention that these leaving of companies was pretty much unexpected because of the level of integration of this company into Russian economics. To support my words with a fact, for example, the Maersk have a 31% share owning the global ports, which is the biggest port operator in Russia, handling 1.6 million TEU per year. About exactly this means for the Russian market, I'll talk in the second part of my speech. Thirdly, what we see right now on the Russian market is the feeling of uncertainty for Russian shippers. At the end of the day, the shippers, they decide to move the cargo from point A to point B to purchase the cargo, and it's important to take into the consideration their perspective and their point of view. How do they feel? Are they willing to purchase, to move goods? And now we can see the good flows. So there is a big time lag between the decision of the shippers on the market and when the cargo is actually arrived to the country. Just for an example, if you buy your products in Shanghai and you want to move it to the Moscow, it will take about 2 months to deliver the cargo from Shanghai to Moscow. And the currency, for example, exchange rate from USD to ruble in February and March was very volatile, was unpredictable, which has highly affected the decision making of the shippers. However, right now we see that it is quite stabilized. Second is the sanctions. There was unprecedented pressure from the European governments and the USA in terms of sanctions in the last few months. However, the escalation doesn't seem really possible in the nearest future. So the shippers, they have some time to make the preparation and to consider their next plans. And the thirdly, I believe most important one is the increasing pressure for existing rail infrastructure. The rail infrastructure in Russia is already suffering from being overloaded. However, the drastic changes on the market could make things even worse. For example, if you want to export the goods from Russia to China, mainly you have two channels how you can do it. The first is to move containers by sea from Vladivostok, and the second is you can go by direct rail connection. And because, as I mentioned before, these big shipping lines like Maersk, they have left a Russian market, more and more shippers will choose direct rail connection, which is already overused and overloaded, which of course will mean the extension of transit period of moving the cargo. Okay, can we move to the next slide, please?
Yep.
This is all the containers in big Russian cities in perspective of tomorrow. The prevailing part of all transportations in the Russian market is using COC containers, the containers of the shipping lines. However, since many of the shipping lines have left the market, there is no ready solution for that problem. Of course, in this scenario, there's opens a tremendous opportunities for container leasing companies who will have their containers in Russia in the nearest 2 months. And we also see that many of our partners who do container leasing business and many other container owners already try to reorientate their container fleet and move the containers to Russia. Second, I think is very positive thing is increasing awareness about SOC containers among the shippers. Since we expect the drastic deficit of the supply of COC.
Richard, I'm going to take this opportunity while I think there's a bit of a lag to just inform you that we have about 2 more minutes left before we have to move on.
Okay. I'll try to run quickly. Okay, so thirdly, we hope changes and starts to use new roads and new container types, because of the many of the connections have to increase our geographical presence, and secondly, to start to use, for example, 20 DC, 40 used before. Okay, yes, that's pretty much all from my side.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm sorry again for any technical difficulties. Again, if anyone has any questions for Richard, post them in the chat. We'll get to them later. I'm going to move swiftly along, but not before. Thank you once again, Richard, for joining us and for your insights.
Thank you. Yes, of course.
Moving on to our last segment, an external speaker, we have Mr. Armand Toubol. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And just to introduce him, he has over 25 years of experience at SNCF with involvement in the cross-channel ferry activity, combined transport at the head of CNC operator, rail freight transport activity, and the CEO, I think he's currently the CEO of the financial holding of the SNCF Group Subsidiaries Management, even though he's a retired honorary member there. Armand will now take us through the state of the rail freight market in general. So we are very excited to hear from him. Thank you, Armand.
Good afternoon to all. First of all, I think that you have my slides because it will be
Yes.
difficult for me to share them. So if you can display
There
them,
they
I will thank you very much.
Sure.
They are not numerous, and I shall be sufficiently quick to explain what I think, because a lot of things have already been expressed by specialists of this traffic between China and Europe. And what is the most important thing at this stage is clearly that we have at this stage we have this situation where mainly the traffic is definitely exchanged by 20 to 25 million TEUs are sailing in I would say in normal years. Of course, quite a lot of things have been said in the previous discussion, where we have seen that there has been recent evolution. These volumes are extremely dependent on the growth of Europe, and all the sanctions which are happening actually show very clearly that this has a very important impact. If we look at what has happened in the 2008 and 2009 crisis, followed by then a continuous growth until 2019, during all that period, we have seen effectively a sudden downturn of the traffic, and then after that, a real growth. And this period, there has been also a race for competitiveness, and this race was enlarging the vessel. Tremendous race on this field, where we have gone very quickly to 22,000 TEU vessels, which effectively reduced significantly the cost. During the same period, we have seen also the solution of the rail connection between EU and China, this Silk Road, which has been progressing extremely, I would say, extremely rapidly, because we have started by 1,000 trains in 2014, and now we were at 5,000 trains in 2018, and to reach now something around 15,000 trains per year. So it is a real tremendous growth, which was relying on the fact that the time for a container going from China to main Western Europe, this time was nearly cut by two, and a little more for some destinations, by using the rail solution. And what has happened recently, this was representing something like 1.3 million TEUs, and the main corridor was effectively the one going through Russia. If you would be so kind to go to the next slide. Yes, it is very interesting when you look at the graphic, which is on the right of the slide. You can see that there has been a regular growth, which was very interesting, and suddenly a very strong surge of the traffic, which was effectively very important in 2019. And a certain number of events have been happening suddenly. In 2020, there was a reduction of the fleet of new containers built, while the demand at the same time continued to grow, despite the COVID-19, which was hitting Europe, due to the fact that there was a tremendous support by state money in the Western Europe. This has supported the demand. And in front of that demand, we have had a very strong reaction on the Chinese side, where there was, I would say, a certain isolation of a certain port, and the supply chain has been completely upset by the lack of staff in factories, by the blockage in certain ports, and this has created tremendous bottlenecks and delays. The result was effectively immediate. The cost for a container to go from China to Europe by sea was multiplied by 5 to 7, bringing huge profits for the maritime companies that they are so. We have seen that in France, where CMA CGM suddenly by Seva, buys another takes over the participation of in JEFCO, the Russian, the ZD participation in JEFCO. Buying a newspaper, in which all that shows that they have got a huge amount of money, and the profit were exactly for the main ship owners were tremendously increasing. At the same time, for those who were waiting for their containers, it is a real disaster. And rail has demonstrated during that period a real resilience, and it has continued to grow by 50% on this route in 2020 and 22% in 2021, when effectively the COVID-19 started to decrease quite rapidly. And what are the new challenges? Many thanks. To go to the next slide, please. Well, what is very interesting is the trade between China, which was effectively in its majority, because you have seen the ratio between 1.3 million of TEUs compared to 25 million of TEUs for the maritime sector. But anyway, with the huge difficulties and the huge price increase that has hit the maritime traffic, then of course immediately the demand on the rail was increased. But at the same time, the main efficient Silk Road was the one going straight through Russia and through Belarus, arriving in the center of Europe. And this has definitely been hit by all the elements that have been described by the previous speakers. I have heard some of them. Sorry to have been late in joining. And it has shown that the anxiety of the shippers, the difficulty of a certain number of train arriving in on the western side, the sanctions hitting some rail companies, the difficulty about the sanctions against the bank, all that has shown a real difficulty. And at the same time, we have had effectively the problem between Russia, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which has blocked certain routes. What has happened at this time? The resilience of the rail is effectively to look at alternatives. And the map is interesting because it shows that you have what we call the middle corridor. The middle corridor is effectively more difficult because it goes through Kazakhstan, then it crosses by sea the Caspian Sea, and then it arrives in Azerbaijan, it goes to Georgia or to Armenia, and then it enters either in Turkey or crosses the Black Sea to arrive directly in Varna, for instance, or in Romania or Bulgaria, to then link by the European corridors to the center of Europe. This solution is more complex, definitely. And when you look what was the problems, you could see that there was the problem of the ferries crossing the Caspian Sea on this corridor, and these problems were linked to the fact that there was only 2 ferries, And recently, so that means that there is a reaction, because it seems more important, on this crossing of the Caspian Sea, they have put now 6 ferries instead of the 2, which means that there is a willingness to enhance that. Then we arrive in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, this has been supported by the bank, the Asian Bank of Development, and they have deployed investment to renew the rail network in Azerbaijan, to reorganize the governance and the structure and the infrastructure in Azerbaijan. And now it is the French Development Bank, who is now agency, it's not a bank, agency, that is now interested in developing the end of the Caucasian corridor, enabling to go to the Black Sea by the port of Poti, for instance, or the new port that they intend to develop on the Black Sea, because Poti is limited in capacity, or the connection through Armenia to link the network of Turkey at once, and then going to Istanbul, and then by the new bridge built 2 years ago, I think, then directly to the rail network. So this is very interesting, because the development is the same that has been made in Azerbaijan, that could be made in Georgia, and they have launched recently studies to go and make investment in this country. And this is very interesting, because we will have here a much powerful rail link between effectively the maritime through Caspian. Effectively, you can avoid the Caspian Sea by going and linking through Iran to the Turkish network. So there is, and you avoid also the Black Sea in that condition, which you can avoid also by the solution, by crossing the Caspian Sea, and finally going through Armenia to directly from Tbilisi to the Turkish network. So what we can see is that the rail solution is trying to find alternative to the main Silk Road that was going through Russia. There is now a big challenge, effectively, in terms of capacity. But I think that even if we look at the fact they have multiplied considerably the ferry capacity on the Caspian Sea, it needs probably still more effort. So it's interesting that there is a show of the resilience through this Caspian corridor. Let us go to the next slide, please.
Yes, and I think we'll have to wrap up in about 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, and we are arriving nearly to the end, because I put only a few slides as requested. The question is the prices of the sea routes. Will they remain high with the surge of oil price, which may lead to something that we have known in the past, which was the slow steaming, which reduced the throughputs in contradiction with what is expected with the economic growth, which means that we may still have, even if the peace come back, a surge of the price, the remaining of the high price. Road price are suffering in the same way of the oil price. Rail will benefit of its sustainability, which is an important factor that a certain number of shippers are considering as very important. And this is, I would say, something that we have to keep strongly in mind. And then what is very important is to develop the investment in interfaces, ports, border crossing, transfer at gauge interfaces. All that can be progressing, automatized, and progress in train efficiency may also happen, because even in Europe I have tested by myself trains of 1.5 kilometers, which reduce the cost by 30%, which is an important point, and which is actually being homologated in Germany. We have done the safety study, but it has to be finished right now. And this gives the advantage of the transit time. And this will be more and more important, this question of the transit time, because the rate of interest for the money are rising. Wherever it is rising. And we all know that the advantage in time means immediately an advantage in competition when the cost of the money is higher. So all these elements show that we have now, I would say, intermodal solution that will be, from my point of view, certainly viable when you look at what is the environment of the problem and the development. That's all. I have been quite short to make that presentation for you, but I think it is quite clear by looking at what is the situation, what are the challenges, what is the demand, and what is happening on the seaside. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Armand. That was great. And thank you for keeping it short and concise. It was very informational. I'm just going to go to the next slide. Next, last but not least, we have our very own Thomas Smith. He is a senior network development manager at Container XChange, and he will be giving us a run through of how rail freight operators can increase flexibility using xChange, and he'll also perform a platform demonstration. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so that he can take over.
Thank you. I hope can everyone hear me? I can't seem to get the invitation out of the screen, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to share my screen, but I'll try my very best. But thank you for all the speakers speaking today. It's very insightful. In terms of increasing flexibility on Container XChange, what we can offer is a large array of SOC equipment, whether if it's leasing on a one-way basis or also purchasing equipment in any different location. And this will in turn allow you to increase the flexibility of your equipment, which I can demonstrate on the platform. However, Candice, I'm very much struggling to share my screen. No? Okay, cool. Maybe. Okay, great. Thank you. Technology sometimes very difficult, but yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully everyone can see the screen. And as I was saying, increasing the flexibility will be able to help. xChange will be able to help you find equipment, whether it's on a one-way lease or in terms of purchasing, and it will allow you to connect with different suppliers in different areas and negotiate the terms that you both agree with. So for example, this is what Container XChange would look like. And you could simply type in a pickup location of an area looking to lease an SOC equipment and also the drop-off location. So I just did Budapest and Duisburg. And once you press search, what it would do, it will bring up a list of suppliers that could supply you equipment. And what Container XChange allows many different asset owners to do is be very efficient in their equipment and avoid the empty repositioning. So we have an example here with OVL Containers supplying some equipment in China and drop-off locations being Duisburg or Budapest. And essentially, in terms of the terms you can lease, you can always specify how much equipment you guys would need. And the main thing here is you're always in control of the terms. So when we talk about leasing equipment gets very expensive, having a marketplace which Container XChange does allows you to connect with different suppliers. So you can always negotiate how many days you lease the container for. The DM would simply be the rental fee after the 3 days is up, if there is any issues in terms of delays, etc. And also, how much do you have to pay to lease this container? I guess the very typical example is you would be paying to lease a container leaving China, but on the return to China, suppliers would also incentivize users to move the equipment back to China. So it could be a different pickup charge given which direction. And as simple as this on Container XChange, you can click send request, and then you would be in a negotiation with a supplier for equipment, boosting the flexibility and availability that you can actually use. And on a similar note, in terms of the trading platform, you can see this will allow you to find equipment in many different areas where you're looking to purchase SOC containers. So sticking with the theme of China, we could simply type in China, and what it would do, it would bring us up a huge long list of sales offers where you can find different suppliers to help you be more efficient, finding equipment where you're struggling with the shortages, and really helping you guys in the tough times of the availability of equipment. We can, if we have, I don't know how much time I have. I know we've run over. Candice, maybe I can run for a negotiation as well, or are we struggling for time?
I think we could do another 2 or 3 minutes, and then we probably need to continue.
Okay, sure. When you want to make a purchase of a container, we offer the solution where you can always speak directly to the supplier or to the seller. So on Container xChange, you can see that you always are aware of which company is on xChange and which company you're dealing with. You have a chat function where you can speak to the supplier or the seller, and you can also start and arrange a call. And what this would really do, given what's going on in the industry, I think in terms of availability, it allows you to have access to a really large network of different companies in the same situation as yours, whether they're being a supplier and a seller, and really making you more efficient with the equipment to boosting that flexibility up, because I think being efficient is very important given the problems that we're facing. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Thomas. Are you completely done with your presentation? And cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to go through that with us. And again, if anyone has any questions about how the platform works or wants to book a demo, get in touch with Thomas or one of us after the webinar. We'll be happy to point you into the right direction. All right, so I think it's time for questions. I have seen a couple that are going on in the chat that have been answered by our speakers as they go along. So I'm going to start with the question that has been actually posted in the question part of the chat. It's been posted by Ratika Kapoor, and she has a question for Frank. Frank, she wants to understand what's happening in China owing to the COVID lockdowns, and how is hinterland transportation blockages impacting the supply chain there?
Yeah, it's so lockdown policies. Yeah, as we can see, the Chinese government also still taking the very strict control and try to lock down all the cities, places occurred as the COVID virus. So yeah, every government has their own understandings to these virus affections. So we have no position to claim that. But it is indeed to impact all the industries, all the aspects of the economic. So I think retail data is finding the intermodal ways to try to secure the logistics. For example, from Ningbo to Wuhan, we are using the rail. We are using the direct rail to connect to Wuhan, and we are taking also the ocean and the Yangtze River by rail barge to Wuhan. So we are finding all the ways to secure the business. So don't worry, we're always finding the ways. Okay.
Thank you, Frank. If anyone has any more questions, can you post them into the questions part? If not, then we do have a breakout room session where everyone will be directed into a breakout room where you'll be able to speak with a few other members who are here today. But before we do that, our social media managers asked if we could quickly take a screenshot. I'm not sure if you're still with us, of everyone, all the participants here. Sam, so if you're still with us, I think now's your shot. I'm not sure if he's still here. Otherwise, Lyra, would you like to lead us into the breakout room session?
Exactly. So I will create 5 breakout rooms where you will have a chance to discuss the current situation, current challenges in the industry. You will have a chance to get acquainted and find probably partners for your business. So just stay tuned.
Great. Before we break out, just want to say another thank you to everyone who joined today. And if you have any other questions or chats, you know who to reach out to. Valeria has also posted a link where you can request a demo with our team. So once again, thanks so much for joining, and we'll chat in the breakout room.